Could the Saints deal Derek Carr and this quarterback prospect is shooting up draft boards? Dianna, Russini, Chase Daniels, ladies and gentlemen, more news, more scuttlebutt, if you will, about Derek Carr and exactly what in the holy hell is happening. What is going on here? There's a lot of unanswered questions. This has become an injury story, which is what it was Friday. Hey, Derek Carr's hurt. Hey, Derek Carr may need surgery. Now it is transformed into this nefarious conspiracy theory web of lies, and Dianna Russini is going to talk us through it.
Have a major problem with Dianna. Derek Carr, the shoulder injury. I think it's a lot of fluff. What in the world is going on with the New Orleans Saints and Derek Carr right now?
You use the word fluff. I use the word fishy.
Oh,
right. So I've spent the last few days digging on the story to just try to figure out what's happening here.
Let me tell you what I think's happening here. I've done a lot of digging myself, all right? Doug Trio levels of digging. That's a Pokemon reference if you don't get it. Here's what I think happened. Now, is this true? Is this fact? I don't know. That's what I think happened. I think Derek Carr wanted out of New Orleans. I think Derek Carr saw what was happening. He saw his time coming to an end. He thought the Saints may move on and draft a quarterback or whatever. He thought he might be in a situation that Kirk Cousins was in last year. And he said, you know what? F all that. I want out of New Orleans. All right, new coach coming in, whatever. Which explains why Derek was away from the team, why he was separated, why he was ghosting, why he was whatever. But the Saints couldn't do it. Then the Saints took a look around, looked at their cap, looked at the monies, and said, we really can't trade him. Because if we trade him, we got to find this money somewhere else to be cap compliant, which means uncovering $30+ million somewhere else, which means probably cutting players they didn't want to cut, not signing players they wanted to sign, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So without Derek Carr's blessing, because remember, the restructure was not connected to Carr. It was already in the contract. The team could do it without him. I think they restructured him. I think they basically told him, this is what you are doing. We're restructuring you. You are here for another year. You can't seek a trade. We're not trading you. We're pretty much keeping you in New Orleans. And I think he's throwing a fit. That's exactly what I think's happening. I think this is part of that, and that's just how the tea leaves kind of line up right now.
From what I can gather, it appears the information got out from the Carr side of it. That was put out by them. Because I can tell you, I had some.
Damn, that's a big revelation. So that's something we have not known, and we have been wondering is, where did this information come from? It either came from the Saints or it came from the Carr camp, whether that's his agent, him, his brothers, whoever. Dianna Russini is basically saying, like, I mean, we're going to rewind that for a second.
That was put out by them. Because I can tell you, I had some conversations with people in New Orleans who were aware of it, but they weren't looking to put it on blast. There could be a world where the Saints put it out too, but I really believe that this is coming from Derek Carr because I think he's the one who isn't thrilled with the Saints at this point.
Yeah.
Right? And the information was put out that he's dealing with a shoulder injury that may require surgery that could keep him out for this upcoming season. This after we know that they redid his contract.
Yeah, they just redid his deal.
Yeah, and the way they did his deal, they restructured it where basically it's in.
Again, we knew if they restructured what they would attack. They went after, or not attack, but what they would change. They took the $30 million that was just a guaranteed roster bonus. They changed it into signing bonuses or whatever the verbiage is, so that they could then take that, and instead of being doled out in lump sums, they could cut it up into the next couple of years to ease the burden on the team. We knew the whole time. The big question was what are they going to do with that $30 million? Are they going to release Derek Carr and try and get around it that way? Are they going to trade him? Are they going to do this? Turns out none of it worked with the cap compliant deadline of March 12th. So they had to restructure it, which, like we said, makes perfect sense for everyone except Derek Carr.
In favor of Derek Carr. Like the Saints are stuck with him now because they're going to have to pay, they're going to have a $20.5 million cap hit if they were to move on from him. So they set this thing up to make Derek feel good. He's going to get all his money here.
Yeah.
So I thought we'd go back to talking about when they were looking for a new head coach. Because let's remember, Dennis Allen is why Derek Carr wound up there. Because
No
remember,
doubt.
Right. Dennis drafts him. Dennis is with him with the Raiders. Derek is Dennis's guy. All right. And Dennis is Derek's guy. Dennis throws a Hail Mary. Says, look, my job, I got a year. I have to win. Goes and gets Derek Carr. His offensive coordinator is Pete Carmichael. Complete failure. Carmichael gets fired. Then Allen gets fired middle of the season. All right. Once all that's happening, I think Derek is smart enough and an NFL veteran enough to realize, like, okay, the walls are kind of crumbling around me here. This isn't my team anymore. Like, I'm becoming a bridge quarterback. And it seems as if Derek does not want to be a bridge quarterback. He does not want to be the guy in between the next step of wherever the franchise is going, which is insane, I think.
Dennis Allen was with the Raiders. Dennis Allen obviously is no longer there. Kellen Moore takes over. Before Kellen Moore is hired, we talked about it on the show. We talked about it here on Scoop City. Why I was hearing that Kellen Moore was perhaps a little hesitant to taking the job in New Orleans because of Derek Carr. Let's just take a listen to what we were talking about before they made the hire. There was a little scuttlebutt. I hate that word.
I actually like that word. Say it again.
You like scuttlebutt? Little chit chat about whether or not, if Kellen would want this job, and it's due to the fact that they don't have a quarterback already there in place. That was concerning. But that being said, I do think he's come around on it from what I was hearing of just, all right, maybe this is the right spot for me. All right, so there were some question marks, but in the end, they hired him. I know. I kind of agree with old me. So
I like it.
Gosh, by the way, that was the winter, so depressing. So let's just start there with the fact that there was some hesitance, and Kellen Moore takes the job. They love Kellen there. They've surrounded him with all these veteran coaches, and they decided to stick with Derek Carr. Yet, I know that the New Orleans Saints are on a mission to get a quarterback. That's the fact.
Again, this is not surprising. Like, this whole thing happened with the restructure, with the idea that, look, we have a year of Carr. All right, this contract works out to where we got him for this year. We either trade him or release him or whatever, and then we deal with the bonuses that we restructure. We deal with that later on, but it is what it is. But we have him for a year. Okay, so like that's another thing that everyone seemed to know and everyone seemed to agree upon. And that might be the sticking point where that agreed upon notion, that is what Derek Carr did not want to do. He did not want to be a seemingly one-year bridge guy.
Where in this draft, I'm unsure of. I just know they are looking to get a quarterback in this draft. And you could just tell by the fact that they've had some of these quarterbacks visit the Saints facility. So pick it up for the Kellen Moore and Carr dynamic here from just like how you see it at this point.
Yeah, when he took the job, I mean, I talked to him, and he was really excited about the opportunity to go and to be a head coach. Right? There's only 32 opportunities, so as soon as you get an opportunity, like regardless of the quarterback situation, if you're with a team with a good front office and a good team, you're going to figure out the quarterback situation. He obviously knew Derek Carr probably wasn't the long-term answer. They were always going to be in the market for a quarterback in this draft based on what I was hearing in New Orleans. It's just now at number 9, okay, that to me is sort of where the draft starts, because you could possibly and probably have Shedeur Sanders there at 9. You could possibly and probably have Jackson Dart there. You could possibly probably have all these other guys. Okay, Tyler Shough, we're going to talk about him a little. Like, he's a guy that's on the Saints' radar in all these situations. How do you see these guys in a Kellen Moore offense? I think Kellen Moore is a great offensive mind. Now, we know what he's like as an offensive mind, right? how do these guys fit in? Derek Carr's not fitting into the equation. There was something that changed from the time he took the job and be like, okay, we can win with Derek Carr, to maybe Derek Carr's camp not being happy. Maybe it's they told Derek Carr's camp that, hey, we're taking a quarterback. Derek can be the starter for one more year, and then we're going to start this other rookie. Like, I can imagine something like that going, and Derek Carr being like, hold up, I don't want to be a placeholder. I want to have a situation where I can go and I can be a starter for 2 or 3 more years in my career. But it's just crazy that it was like the Friday news dump to where I could tell that Kellen Moore and
that's the part where it's kind of confusing for me, because how could Derek have seen this going any other way? He even if they said, you know what, Derek, you can just play out your contract, play this year, play next year. Like, even then, he knows, like, you're not the long-term franchise quarterback here. You know, like, this is a team that won 5 games last year. We're completely rebuilding, completely new coach, complete new system. You have 2 years left on your deal. Like, what do you think's happening? You know, like, what do you think's going? You think we're going to extend you? You're going to play 6 years here? You know, like, you're going to play well into your upper 30s? Like, what? How else do you see this happening? So the idea that it's like, wait, I'm a bridge quarterback? I'm not standing for this. It's like, how was he surprised by this?
Mickey Loomis, the GM, they're probably on the same page. And that's another thing that people, they don't have to take a quarterback at 9. 9 is really rich. What if you ride with Spencer Rattler in a second or third round guy and wait to next year knowing you're probably not going to win a whole bunch of games?
Well, not only next year. So, I mean, we've heard, at this point, I think it's probably 5 or 6 quarterbacks that are considered either the second best quarterback in the draft or the third best or maybe the first. Cam Ward, Tyler Shough, Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, Jalen Milroe, Will Howard. We've heard Kyle McCord. We've heard all those, and not just from me, from like NFL sources have said, no, actually, Will Howard's the best quarterback in the draft. No, well, actually, Jackson Dart is the second best quarterback in the draft. I think at this point, it's too up in the air. There's too. I mean, when is the last draft where you got people like, yeah, I don't know. Actually, I don't think the number 1 overall pick's the best quarterback. I actually think it's this 5th rounder that's the best quarterback in the draft. Like, what? You know, like, it's just way too weird of a quarterback pool. I don't think you can take one at 9. I'm where I'm sitting. I think you got to get off of that. It's too much. I always talk about volatility. I always talk about, you know, information versus non-information. I think there is too much unknown with the entire quarterback class to where, I'm not saying he is, but if Tyler Shough is the best quarterback in the draft, or Will Howard is the best quarterback in the draft, or Riley Leonard is the best quarterback in the draft, or Kyle McCord, or Jalen Milroe, or whatever, you can kind of take your shot in the 3rd round, 2nd round, 4th round, 5th round, and maybe get the same thing you would get at 9. So at this point, I think you take the best available at 9. Is that Jahdae Barron? Is that Jalen Walker? Is that Tet McMillan? Is that Tyler Warren? Is that Ashton Genty? Is that Malachi Starks? Whatever. Take whoever you think is the best, safest pick at 9. Get your stuff together, and then take your shot with the quarterback later on down the board. Roll with Spencer Rattler, and see what you get with whoever Kellen Moore likes out of that combination of Jackson Dart, Tyler Shough, you know, Kyle McCord, Will Howard, whoever.
And next year, there's Drew Aller. Next year, possibly Arch Manning. You know, there's a lot better quarterback class. Kate Klubnik is next year as well. So there's a lot of situations going on.
I don't think you look next year.
If you're number 9, that's sort of the start of the draft, because you could see possibly a quarterback going number 9 overall to the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, and maybe this is Derek Carr looking at the situation going, I don't want the Kirk Cousins treatment. I don't want to be your quarterback. You guys draft a young guy coming in here, and it's basically when is he going to play, right? Which then makes a quarterback room tense. What is that like when a veteran quarterback like a Derek Carr, who I think this is out of character for him. I understand it. But what is that like in a room where everyone knows essentially what's happening? There's no hiding it.
Look, I was a part of that room, and
I mean, Russini's kind of laying it on here. Like, Russini is making it seem like this is a Derek Carr nefarious move. All right? Now, let me make this clear. This is a bastard move, if that is what's happening. If this is coming out from the Carr camp, if he's trying to play chess, not checkers, if he's trying to leverage his way or whatever and stick it to the Saints for keeping him and restructuring him and giving him all that money, if he's mad and sad and upset about all that, and he's sticking it to the fans and sticking it to the front office and sticking it to the team, I mean, damn. Tough look. And my next question would be, if that is the case, these players aren't dumb. His teammates aren't dumb. His coaches aren't dumb. The front office isn't dumb. He's still on the team. So he can do all this, screw the Saints over, put them in a horrific spot. What's he going to do? Is he going to pull a Carson Palmer, just not show up and just say, look, I'm not even coming to the facility. I'm hurt. I'm having surgery. I'm going to sit at home. I'm not coming to camp. I'm not going to be on the sidelines. I'm not going to do nothing. Because it is hard to imagine Derek Carr being in that locker room, whether he's playing or not at this point, especially if these rumors are true and he's straight up sticking it to the Saints. If that's the case, I don't care if he's playing or not. You don't walk into that locker room with, sweatshirt and a sweatpants, chewing sunflower seeds, and I mean, that is a toxic, miserable environment. And we'll see what happens, but if this has gone down how Dianna Russini is making it seem like it's going down, it is war between Derek Carr and the Saints.
2016.
Started by Derek Carr.
For the Philadelphia Eagles, Sam Bradford was on the roster. Okay, I was on the roster. I had just gotten paid probably my biggest deal to date with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Flex.
That's when Doug Peterson took over. I was told, hey, we're going to let you and Sam compete for the job, but I knew it was Sam's job, so I wasn't too worried about it. They draft and move up for Carson Wentz number 2. So Sam Bradford and Carson Wentz were on the same roster for a little while. It was one of the most awkward rooms I've ever been a part of. You have the number 2 overall pick, Carson Wentz, probably thinking, hey, I'm going to start right away. Sam Bradford was still on the roster, I believe, for a few weeks, if not a month. And then it was the OTAs, and Carson didn't really play at all because he had fractured a rib. So I was the number 2. Sam was the number 1. The first day of OTAs, we split reps. Sam Bradford and I split reps with Carson being the number 3. And then all of a sudden, like right before training camp, that dead period, right? Like right after training camp, right before the season, they trade our guy Sam Bradford away. Carson Wentz jumps from 3 to 1. But it was just an interesting dynamic because you don't ever want to be looking over your shoulder, right? And that's probably what Derek Carr's doing. He's getting out ahead of this. Like, they're probably going to draft a guy. They're probably not going to roll with me. Let me try to find a situation out. It's just all these, I don't know what team he goes to like this year, because there's a lot of teams that don't need quarterbacks anymore. The Steelers, the Vikings.
Well, now it's almost like think about a little kid, right? Who's like, I want an ice cream cone, and they don't have one, and you have one. And they like swat the ice cream cone out of your hand. And now neither of you have one. But they don't care, because if they don't have one, they don't want you to have one. That's what it almost feels like Derek Carr is doing, because now they sure as hell aren't going to trade him, because now he's hurt. What team is going to trade for him now? What quarterback needy team? If you're the Steelers, are you like, I'm not trading for Derek Carr. He might have shoulder surgery. He might miss the whole damn season. I'm not trading for this guy, right? Like, why would I do that? So now it looks like the trade is off the table, and he's straight up just sitting there like this, puffing and puffing. Like, okay, you're not going to trade me? Fine. Well, I'm not going to play, and I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going to do that. But now it doesn't really change the outcome. It doesn't really change like their ability to trade him or not.
The Browns are the 3 that I think of that probably need quarterbacks that Derek Carr could get traded to. This is just a full-on out like, hey, I'm going to sit out a year. You still owe me my money, or if not, let me go get a starting job.
Yeah. I wonder if there is a little bit of, let's just call it an excuse made here with the shoulder, so Derek doesn't look bad asking for a trade because of the situation.
Yeah, I think it makes him look worse. Honestly, like if you're going to say that,
I agree.
Just say you want to trade. There's plenty of that, and I know he's trying to like tiptoe around it, but we view
I agree 100%. If he would have just come out and said, Derek Carr is demanding a trade from the New Orleans Saints, fine. Like, draw your line in the sand, whatever. But coming out and saying, no, actually, guys, I'm hurt. It's like, well, wait, what? Are you? Are you still on the team? Are you still on the roster? How hurt are you? Do you need surgery? But, yeah, I mean, I agree with Chase. I think it makes him look worse.
You know, honesty. It's so fitting to be honest nowadays because everyone asks for a trade. You're not the only person to ask for a trade. You're not a bad teammate
and
to
I think
ask for
people
a trade.
understand it.
Now it's fishy, like your word says. It's what was my word? Not what was my word?
Fluffy.
Do you remember? Fluffy.
Fuzzy.
Fluffy.
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 I like
fluffy and fishy.
I like fuzzy better. Fuzzy's better. But no,
like all that situation.
I will say I did have a lot of text messages and conversations over the last few days about the Derek Carr situation.
Hell yeah.
And it was very hard for me to find someone in football who said, oh, Derek's definitely dealing with a serious shoulder injury. It was.
I mean, damn, I'm glad we clicked this video. I mean, this is a lot of stuff right here. I mean, Diana's basically saying, like, she has not heard a single person who actually thinks Derek's hurt.
No.
How long you been doing this? You know what this is about, right? And trade bait, right?
Yes.
End of the day, that's what this is about.
You texted me when this went down. You're like, what's happening? I was like, this is not normal for Ian Rappaport retweeted it or tweeted it. I'm like, that for sure had to come from Derek Carr's agent because there must have been like a meeting. Let's get it out right away. Like, it's just.
Well, look at the timing of it, right?
Happens.
We're a little over a week away from the draft. Teams are still in need for quarterback. People are making their decisions. Maybe this is to allow teams some flexibility and understanding with what they want to do in the upcoming draft. There's a lot more to the story. Now, that being said, while this is all happening, so the Derek Carr news comes out, and it was the same day that Louisville quarterback.
I'll tell you this. If Carr ends up getting traded or something and he doesn't have a shoulder injury and whatever, all-time scumbag move. I'm already kind of ready to say all-time scumbag just by the way this is played out and the way that it's sounding. I'll give him some time to see what actually ends up happening. But as of right now, we could be in an all-time scumbag situation, ladies and gentlemen. All right, get on down in the comments below. This has been a fantastic video. Well done to Dianna Russini and Chase Daniel. And sometimes I can be critical of these videos or whatever when whatever. But when people do a good job, I give them their ups. All right, I give them their ups. That's my journalistic ethics. Okay, my journalistic integrity and big ups to Dianna Russini and Chase Daniel for this one. Chase on the balcony, son. Where are you at? Where's this guy? Is he in Slidell? That's a good looking balcony. What is that? Was that Madisonville? All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.